Hi everyone. So the much awaited standard on insurance contracts is finally here now, right? It's becoming globally mandatory starting 1st of January 2023, and it was a long wait for all of us, right? Around 2 decades, around 20 years of updates, waiting, changes, challenges, and interim standard also, midway is something that eventually resulted into this particular standard. And of course, the industry, the business, the models, they are fairly complicated. So I would want to say that it's an accounting standard for the actuaries, right? But then, if I'm an accountant, then how do I understand that? Because I'm the one who is primarily responsible for the preparation of the balance sheets and the profit and loss account and the other disclosures, right? So, what exactly is this standard trying to tell us is something that I want to give you as an overview in this particular session. Okay, insurance contracts had been, if I look at the industry per se, how does it actually work? So, insurance contract would say that you are receiving a premium in advance, all right, and then there is an expectation of claims in future. All right. Of course, the actuaries would be really looking at the profitability and the modeling of that particular contract or group of contracts to price it so that they are at least earning, the return on their capital as well. So effectively, when I look at this entire scenario, the cash flows, there is the inflows in terms of the premiums and the claims, and it's not just obviously confined to claims, but there would be also acquisition costs, right? You might be paying for the underwriting, you might be paying for the commission charges, you might be paying for, the servicing of the contract and stuff like that. So that would all come in picture. And of course, the claims are all about expectations yet again. You cannot really be absolutely certain about what is the claim going to be. Of course, not to forget the fact that while you are trying to sell an insurance policy to a group of people, right, there would be lapses, there would be adjustments with respect to the experience, there would be changes in economic scenarios and whatnot. Okay, the standard says that assess all these things on the first day itself. Your workings should be able to suggest, your working should be able to tell, is this contract a profitable contract or is likely to be a loss making contract, right? Now, sometimes you would wonder, why would an insurance company even want to enter into a loss making contract? Well, there could be multiple reasons. One of the common reasons is compete, right? You want to charge a higher premium, but the competition doesn't allow you to do, and you want to penetrate the market. So you might be even pricing your contracts in a manner that you're actually making losses. You intend to make losses, but you're able to kind of capture a huge market share. Okay, so if this is the case, whether the contract or the group of contracts are profitable or loss making, the standard says that do not recognize the profit, but of course recognize the losses, right? And that brings me really back to the aspect of the prudence or the conservatism principle that we have learned in the fundamentals of accounting long ago, right? So that is one of the perspective that standard is trying to kind of tell us, right? You cannot really group profitable contracts with the loss making contracts, because that would create an offsetting or a netting adjustment, which is certainly prohibited by the standard. Okay, so that's one thing that you want to kind of bring on the table, and you are, by the way, importantly, doing it all on the basis of your estimates or assumptions about how much premium you are expecting, how many claims you would be incurring, and other expenses as well. So this is all on the notional basis you need to do the accounting, and that's where the actuaries would have a bigger work, but at the end of the day we need to do the accounting as well. Okay, That's one of the perspectives that we should be knowing. The other aspect, so the prudence aspect is dealt with here. The other relevant aspect is that when you talk about the insurance industry, so if I said today on a Y0, I'm receiving a premium, for example, if it pertains to a period of, let's say, up to 5 years. Okay. Many life contracts would fall in such kind of a category where you're receiving premiums in advance. Now, we may argue that this is every year, by the way. So we can build that perspective. That at the start of the year, you are receiving premiums for the following period, right? Now, this premium ideally should result in your insurance revenue, right? A simple matching concept, because while you are recognizing revenue, there are insurance services that you're providing over this term, so called as a coverage period, right? That's very fundamental again. But then, importantly, since you're talking about an insurance revenue and you're receiving that money in advance, you refer this not obviously as a revenue, but you would call it as a liability, and that is referred to as a liability for remaining coverage, something like a LRC. Okay, so this liability, which is recognized on day one, will be converted into or will be released in the form of revenue over that particular coverage period. Okay, but then if it were that straightforward, which is not of course the case. So what we are saying is that you assess that premium and those expectations of the claims and expenses, etc., to determine whether the contract or the group of contract itself is profitable or loss making. That's what we talked about just a while ago. So essentially this liability for remaining coverage would be built on the basis of something called as building blocks, right? Something called as the building blocks, and that's where we say the standard as a default expects you to follow a model called as a general measurement approach. Most of the contracts which are long duration contracts, life contracts in general of course, they would be following something called as a general measurement model or a general measurement approach, wherein you are trying to assess, you're trying to measure your inflows, maybe in form of premium, your outflows in form of your expected claims, in form of your direct acquisition costs, in terms of your attributable cost with respect to the insurance itself, right? You also try to kind of bring in something called as a risk adjustment. All right, what is that return that the insurance company expects if it is getting into, or if it is getting into, if it is willing to take a particular risk, because there is an uncertainty involved, right? So what is the margin that the company expects to keep when it is entering into some insurance contract? Okay, and then since we are talking about usually a longer duration contract, we cannot let go the discount rate. We cannot let go the present value of these monies. It's all about the cash and the today's value of that cash in terms of the inflows and outflows for that matter. Okay. Now all these things put together, which formulate the building blocks, we assess whether, of course, if I really take that wording back, whether the contract is going to be a profitable one or a loss-making one. All right. With the building blocks like the inflows, outflows, risk adjustment, discount rate, we need to assess on day one whether the contract is likely to be profitable or not. And if it is profitable, since we do not recognize the profit on day one, we refer something called as a contractual service margin. Okay. Now, I'm not really kind of trying to confuse you here, but when I say I'm looking at the contractual service margin, effectively we are saying that these premiums, okay, which are the inflows, they would be now released in form of insurance revenue, importantly, as a block of the claims or expenses, risk adjustments, and of course the present value thereof, and also the CSM. So effectively, these elements, the CSM, the outflows, the expected outflows, and the risk adjustment would be released in form of insurance revenue over the period. Okay, so it is not exactly saying that today you're receiving a, let's say, $100 here, and you would recognize, let's say, this 100 over the period. Now this 100 is effectively split between what are your expectations of outflows, what are your risk adjustments, and let's say the CSM for that matter, and the release of these amounts for the outflows, for the risk adjustment, for the CSM, the pattern is very, very different from each other. And that's the reason why this split is required to be done. Okay, so this is all coming through. As an accountant, you would want to understand what exactly is the assumption by the actuaries about the outflows. What is the risk adjustment that you would be measuring on day one? So it may not be very complicated, but as far as the CSM is concerned, as far as the contractual service margin is concerned, you start assessing what exactly are the the services that you're providing. There would be a term called as a coverage unit. You would get to know about it, of course. But these are all the attributes that you need to understand looking at the group of those insurance contracts for which you need to do the accounting. Okay, so effectively this is all coming in through the LRC, that is the liability for remaining coverage. That's one part. Okay, the second part is I'm expecting an outflow, but in reality my actual claim may be different from what I was expecting it to be. So in those cases, when an actual claim is lodged, we refer something like a liability for incurred claims. So your actual claims will be reported as your expenses, right? So that's how you start looking at as a perspective around how does the accounting in general, as a default category work for the insurance contract. So what we are saying is essentially, we are saying that there is a default model. We are talking about a general measurement model or a general measurement approach. We will talk about the building blocks, wherein essentially the idea is to look at the present value of the cash flows and so on and so forth. But then hang on, what do you say if you are talking about some contracts which are for a shorter duration? For example, motor vehicle insurances, mediclaims. I mean, to some extent, I'm not saying everything. Most of the property and casualty insurances, right? In those cases, you don't really have to worry about it. Looking at those present value of the cash flows, discounting factor and stuff like that, you would rather simply follow something called as a premium allocation approach, or something called as a PAA, right? This would be simple. You're looking at recognition of the insurance revenue through the premium on an accrual basis, and of course the insurance expenses on an accrual basis as well. Although it would appear a bit simpler, but again you need to really compare it whether the results in general from the PAA are in lines with how it would have been from the GMM's perspective, that is the general measurement model's perspective. If there are significant deviations between the two, then again you cannot be allowed to use the PAA. You have to go back to the default category. But I think it's too early to worry about that part. You need to remember something which is a long duration contract, you would necessarily be using GMM. Okay, something which is a contract of less than or up to 12 months of time, this approach is applicable. You are allowed to use that approach as a default, right? That's where you start looking at a little easier simplified approach to follow. But then the standard doesn't stop there. Okay, it also says please follow the similar approach, the building blocks approach again for contracts which have a variability in those, right? There's something called as a VFA or a variable fee approach, where you're talking about contracts which are having direct participation features, right? What exactly is that? How does it work? What is the accounting thereof is something which is very, very different from the default approach, and we shall be discussing those in due course, along with a lot of accounting entries around those as well. So primarily this is where you start looking at the reference to the accounting under the insurance contracts, and of course follow it in the sequencing. One more point that you want to kind of remember before we really call it an overview. There is something that you want to certainly take into consideration, that you do not do the accounting at at an insurance contract level, right? The accounting is rather done at a group of contracts level, which are again subdivided. One of the things that we already talked about is basically the profitability, right? You need to split, you need to keep the groups separate. For loss making, there is onerous contracts versus the profit making contracts. There is also a subcategory of the profitability where you say that it may so happen a contract on day one appears to be profitable, but it has a likelihood, there is significant possibility of turning into a loss-making contract also. So there's a further subdivision, but we don't want to worry about that here. There's another aspect that we need to consider on the basis of timing, right? Where we say that if the duration of the contract is more than 12 months, right? So there's one contract, let's say, written on 1st of January 21, and there's another contract which is written on, let's say, 2nd of January 22. There is more than 1 year's gap, so they cannot again be clubbed. Okay, you have a choice though that you want to kind of keep that duration, something called as a cohort, for less than 1 year also, but it cannot be more than 1 year. So that's an accounting policy choice that you have, but the timing is also a consideration when you're trying to split those contracts per se. And third is the kind of risk that you are taking, right? So what is that inherent risk that you are taking? Even those contracts need to be split on the basis of the, let's say, the type of risk that the inherent risk that is embedded in that particular contract is something that you want to remember when you are reading through, when you're trying to understand this contract better. Okay, the whole idea of the insurance contracts accounting standard is that it is trying to bring a much more consistent approach. Okay, unlike what happens even today, wherein the companies around the world are following different ways of accounting for the revenue as well as the expenses. So this becomes a standardized approach to follow by the companies around the world. All right, so that's something that I wanted to cover on a broader perspective about the insurance contracts to start with. There's a lot of stuff that we want to talk about over the period of time with the help of these lectures. Right then, thank you very much. You all have a good day. Bye-bye.